Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs POSTGAME Podcast. And you do have a 500 baseball team for the end of the season. Luke Stuckmeyer, Ryan Herrera, Cody Delmendo. Cubs beat the Phillies 10-4. I should say the Cubs beat the hungover Phillies 10-4. One night after the Phillies clinched their division title. They didn't look too good on the baseball field, and the Cubs taking advantage of it early and often with Justin Steele on the mound. Hi to everybody in the live YouTube chat, which is the best way to enjoy the CHGO experience. That means Craig, Becky, Jay, all the regulars are filing in. Garrett's here. I never know how to say this one. Dionysus?
Dionysus.
Dionysus?
Yeah, like the Greek god of wine.
Dionysus.
I kind of just want to call him Dinosaur.
Dinosaur. Dino. How about Dino? We call you Dino.
Dion.
Anyways, make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube page.
Anyone miss Gary? Gary Ross?
Gary jumps in every once in a
I
while.
saw Gary in person on Sunday at the watch party, so I got my dose of Gary for the week.
He's busy with bear stuff.
I'm kidding, but, you know.
Somebody would like to see a Cody beer bat for the 500 record.
No.
What about an over 500 record?
No. You get a beer bat on Sunday. I'll tweet it out.
Okay.
I'll give you one.
You'll pour it out.
Pour it into a bat, and then I will drink it. And then I will say, thank God the season is over.
There you go. Or do it for Kyle Hendricks.
Yes, Kyle Hendricks is going to get one more start.
Maybe
about it with Marquis.
maybe when I go out to Club 400, I'll take the beer bat with me and see if I can get Sammy to do one.
There you go.
Oh, wow. Now that would be epic.
Yeah.
And then Sammy, if he did the whole kiss thing afterwards.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about Justin Steele here in a second. His final start of the season. We'll talk about Dansby Swanson. How do you evaluate those two guys this year? We'll talk about where the Cubs are at and some of the comments from Jed Hoyer in the last couple of days here. I do want to start real quick with what I thought was the funniest thing of the night, and it was Philly fans being Philly. A city that threw snowballs at Santa Claus in an Eagles game. Their team clinched the division title. They're playing for best record in the National League. And they were booing them in the second inning tonight because they walked in a run.
There you go.
Booing them.
Two of them, actually.
Two of them, yes.
Runs.
I couldn't decide which was funnier. The fact that they were booing their division champions, or were they saying, the Cubs are so bad, how could you start giving up runs to this offense? I don't know which one gave me a bigger chuckle. Philly fans, you've done it again.
Philly fans are a different breed. Different breed of fan.
They try to live up to there's no question, they try to live up to their billing as the toughest fans, the hardest fans. Anyways, Philly fans, don't stop being you. Justin Steele, 4 innings tonight, 2 earned runs. He will finish the year, I believe, right at 130 innings. At 6-5, is that correct? With the win tonight, he'll be 6-5.
Believe so, yeah.
Not that wins and losses mean a lot. Last night we were talking about Kyle Hendricks and where he's at, and where do you place blame on certain guys for the season? And I said, I don't know if Hendricks is even in the top 10.
Oh no, sorry, 5-5 because he only went 4 innings today. Didn't qualify for.
You're right. You're right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just kind of popped in my head.
You're right. 5-5. He doesn't get the win, so he's 5-5 on the season. I would say Steele's injuries had a bigger impact on this season than potentially Hendricks pitching, because Hendricks was sort of what you expected it to be, but you only got 130 innings out of Justin Steele again. Not his fault. I mean, he gets hurt in the first game of the season.
This is a month.
But you would like to see your quote-unquote ace, the last, 2022, 119 innings. Last year, 173, and that's more the target we're looking for. Guys don't really hit 200 innings anymore.
Yeah, I mean, his goal was 180. Like, he wanted to hit 180, 30-plus starts. He got to 30,
50 innings short of that.
Well, that last year, I'm talking about going into last year, his goal was 180. He got to 173 and a third.
So he was hoping for a minimum of 180 this year. He is 89th in Major League Baseball in innings, one behind Paul Skeens, who of course didn't even start the season with the Pirates.
You got to remember, he missed the entire month of April, and then
and now the elbow injury.
Yeah, no doubt. And me and you both didn't even want him to make these last 2 starts. So
that's true.
It is what it is. I don't know.
I'm glad nothing happened in these last 2 seasons. I think Justin Steele would probably tell you it's been a disappointing season because of the injuries for him. Again, it's not his fault, but it doesn't mean it's not a disappointing season. It is, because if he had made a few more starts, that gives you more opportunities to win.
I would make the argument, though, that his injury isn't the reason the Cubs are where they're at, though. Their starting rotation's been awesome.
Oh, no, I don't either. I'm saying if you're going to go with individual things and move it down, the offense for me is automatically number one. If you want to go bullpen and stuff after that, offense is number one.
Yeah, no, I think I get what Luke is saying as far as like he, just had he made another 4 or 5 starts in April that he didn't make, potentially could have turned into another 4 wins or so. Like you're talking, it is obviously very like, would those wins even matter right now? Especially where they're at in the standings, they're a little closer in the standings, but it feels like whoever makes that last wild card game is going to end up winning like high 80s to maybe even 90 wins. By the end of this, I don't know, but I will agree in the fact that like it is a disappointing season for him. Like not that I'm disappointed in Justin Steele, but I would think that he feels disappointed in the fact that he got hurt, came back. And I will also say that like within that, I think he can also take, a little bit of pride in the fact that like outside of that elbow thing at the beginning of September, he came back and basically pitched the rest of the year. Came back even off that one and was able to make 2 starts, right? Like I think he can take a little bit of like comfort in that, like after that freak, because he said it after his last start, like kind of more of a freak play, right? Like he ran off the mound, was trying to field the play down the first base line, and was it a hamstring strain, right? Whatever it was.
A spike got stuck in the ground, and then he pulled his hamstring.
Yeah, so like that's not like this is a reoccurring thing for him. Like that was a freak injury, and it just so happened that it ended up costing him 5.5, 6 weeks or whatever. And yeah, that's the disappointing part of it, is that for the good first 35, 40 games, whatever it was, outside of opening day, he wasn't there to help the team. But I do think he can like take some more comfort, take some like a little bit of solace in the fact that he came back from that, was Justin Steele again, and only ended up missing like basically a minimum stint on the IL. Maybe missed 3 more starts the rest of the year. Like I think he can take some comfort in that, and that outside of the freak injury, he was basically healthy for the majority of the year.
He's going to finish with an ERA around 3. Now, he doesn't qualify for ERA because he doesn't have the right amount of innings pitched. But in the National League, as Cody was saying, starting pitching has been absolutely the strength of this team. You're going to have Imanaga finish potentially 3rd in the National League in ERA, and Tyone 7th. But now factor in an ERA of Justin Steele at 3, and you're looking at that and saying, wow, that first month of the season, they were good, right? Imanaga and Assad were going back and forth in ERA leaders, but what if you're throwing in now big performances from Steele? Maybe you get some momentum going early in the season that you're able to carry over. Again, it's not his fault. He pitched well when he pitched, but disappointing for him would be that he only pitched 130.
Well, and you think Tyone also missed the first almost month of the year, I think was close to that, or maybe even a little bit more.
That was the only reason that Assad was even in the rotation.
Yeah, because Tyone was starting the year on the IL, and like obviously Wicks gets hurt at the end of April, but he had some okay starts mixed in there, but also wasn't like great, obviously. But Imanaga was great, Assad was great to begin the year. But when you're talking about you're missing Steele and Tyone, who you're looking at as probably 2 of your top 3 starters going into the year for basically the first month of the year. Yeah.
I would say Steele being hurt the team more so the second time here at the end of the year, when there was still maybe some hope, just because, you were in a position where you absolutely needed to win games, and, losing the series in Colorado, losing the series against the A's. I think he pitched that series, but there were some other series in there that they lost that they probably should have won. But yeah, I mean,
it was about 3 weeks for Tyone, by the way, not the whole month, but about 3 weeks.
In general about the rotation, I feel good about it going into next year. I still think though that it can be even better though, and you can't. And as Craig Counsell has said this himself too, or a form of it is like you can't rely on the same thing happening the year after a year like this. Like,
not
as much as I was down, as much as I'm down, as much as I am against Assad being a guy who starts every game or every 5th day, he was great for the first 2 months out of rotation, 2.5 months. Had some struggles going to the All-Star break, hit the IL, came back, had some more struggles with the command, but here at the end of the season, he's been good. Tyone, same thing. Really good through the All-Star break. Then he had a few bad starts post-All-Star break, but is finishing the season strong. Imanaga has been as consistent as you could have asked. But on the wrong side of 30, going into year 2, there's going to be more scouting on him. There's just absolutely no way that you can bank on Imanaga repeating this season again. And Steele, 2 seasons now where he's been on the injured list. So it's not to say that I don't think they're going to be good next year. All those guys I just said. What I'm saying is that you need to bolster it just a little bit more. And that's what kind of hurts the most about the injuries to Ben Brown and Cade Horton.
Yeah.
Because if you would have been able to, if Brown stays healthy all season and Cade Horton is at least able to come up and give you some innings, at least you have an idea of what they can give you in 2025. Instead, we're going to enter 2025 with the same questions related to those guys and Jordan Wicks, basically, on if they can help in their role, I guess, and what they can help. So that's why, as much as, yes, they need to fix the offense, and I will sit here and be all aboard the Juan Soto trade, they still need to get a starting pitcher.
I'm with you. You have to get me proven performance.
Yeah.
Like if Horton comes up and is great, super bonus for the team. If Wicks bounces back, great, super bonus for the team. But we're always going to compare stuff to 2016 because it's when the golden era, right? And you look at having Lester, Arrieta, Hendricks as your 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. You still need to add that guy, whether it's the 1 or the 2, whoever that might. Maybe it is Corbin Burns. Maybe it's Fried. Maybe it's
trading for Crochet.
Mm-hmm. But now you look at that and say, wow, 3 out of 5 days.
Yeah.
We got something going. And
You have
the other
depth.
2 days, we may have Cade Horton. We have Tyone, who's going to finish 7th in ERA in the National League. There's a lot of ways to look at it and say, okay, we can't fix the whole offense again. You got to try fixing the offense, but you could make that rotation really, really formidable.
Well, you even think about 16 when you also include John Lackey was another.
Sure, I look at Tyone as being the guy you want to be your lackey.
Yeah,
in 2016.
they had what?
That's what I want Tyone to be.
But kind of combining both points you were making of they had 4 guys, I think, pitch at least 30 and make at least 30 starts that year. The health and
Jason Hamill was good.
Jason Hamill made 20 something, right? They had
It was a good
the health that team had was just, you don't see that.
Right.
The pitching, the starting rotation, you just don't see the entire rotation basically stay healthy a whole year like that. So yeah, you Steele, Imanaga, Tyone, if he's your 4, you feel really good about that because you added someone to be in that top 3. You feel great about that, but then as Cody's saying, to also not have answers on a guy like Ben Brown or a Cade Horton or really Jordan Wicks, even Wisniewski, Craig Counsell did say maybe there's still a potential that Wisniewski could start, but that's obviously he's a guy that missed a lot of time, that didn't prove himself as a starter right here. To not have the answers means, as we talked about yesterday, was the rotation a strength this year? Obviously. But the strengths don't have limits. You absolutely can and should do what you can to bolster it. You can never have enough pitching, but you certainly can't have enough good starting pitching because you don't know nothing. Craig Counsell's quote was, none of those are promised as successes or the failures moving forward. So not only is the young guys being injured, that's not a guarantee next year, but a guy like Shota Imanaga doing what he did, that's also not guaranteed anymore.
That's why I'm with Cody. Having Nassad as that swing guy is really, really great. All right. Got to tell you about some of our great sponsors here at CHGO. If you're in the market for a bigger vehicle, find savings to match at Ray Chevrolet this September because truck and SUV month is going on now. Head in today to shop their huge selection of new Chevy models at new low prices. Right now, take $3,000 up to $12,000 off MSRP on most new Chevy models. You heard me right. $3,000 up to $12,000, or cruise into fall your own way and shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. As one of the top selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you're always able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. Visit our partner this September. Final days at their location, not their final days, the final days of September, Route 12 in Fox Lake, or at raychevrolet.com. And if you've heard of Ray Chevrolet, then you know about Ray's Price Promise. That's their guarantee to make your next vehicle more affordable than ever with no price changing, no add-ons, no hidden fees ever. That means the incredible prices we're talking about now, same prices you're going to see when you shop Ray Chevy in-store or online. Shop truck and SUV month all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive. October's almost here. Beginning October 1st, the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox will have a new home. Introducing the Chicago Sports Network, CHSN. CHSN will broadcast more than 300 live games per year across the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox, and will feature a full lineup of original Chicago-focused sports content. They're also Chicago-based, Chicago-built, and Chicago to the core. They're bringing it to every corner of Chicago across our 77 neighborhoods and beyond at CHSN. Chicago comes first. Visit CHSN.com for more information on how to watch the Bulls, Hawks, and White Sox games all season long. Obviously, a huge change coming in Chicago sports watching, right? See how that all plays out. New network and saying goodbye to one that I knew very well.
There's going to be a lot of beer money to watch on Sunday.
Did you hear that? Yeah, that's going to be one of the final things on the network will be episodes of Beer Money. Bringing it back. I don't know what they put in there.
At 7 o'clock on Sunday night.
And I just said it should have been at 8:30.
For 83. I saw in the list that I saw on Twitter that I forget his name, but it's like
Jeff from the Sun-Times.
Yes.
Yep.
It's like the best of Beer Money at 7 o'clock on Sunday night. Half the world will be watching Sunday Night Football. I will be watching Luke Stuckmeyer doing the best of Beer Money.
I believe the 20-year celebration show is also airing right after that. I still haven't watched it. That's been out for 2 weeks. I don't know what's all in it.
There's young Luke is in there.
I know there are some shots. Well, yes,
Luke.
there are some young.
We need to see that
2004.
We need to see the clip of you dressing up like Cap.
Oh,
I wonder if I don't think that's in there. Nobody told me it's in there. That should be in there, and me running the sausage race should be in there.
Yes, those are my core Luke Stuckmeyer memories from when I was in college, watching you do whatever you do.
I didn't save a ton of stuff from there. I mean, that was almost 16 years on TV there. I don't have a whole lot of stuff I've saved. They're like, what do you want saved? I'm like, some of the stuff before Game 7. And, hey, clip me off the sausage race if you can find it. It was 2007. Somebody found it.
Nice.
I need that.
Got that going for us, which is nice.
I'm going to YouTube search Luke Stuckmeyer. Go on.
See if you can find the sausage race?
Yeah.
That was back with Len Casper and Bob Brenly.
Mm-hmm.
But continue.
I was talking to Brenly, and I got distracted, and that's why I lost. But it's another story. Hey, Dansby Swanson provided the power for today's game presented by Illinois pork producers. Savor the flavor, savor the gains, and celebrate any occasion by enjoying the best pork produced by Illinois' pig farmers. Dansby Swanson, couple of hits. The Cubs offense had 15 hits in this game. Horner and Bellinger with 3 each. Bellinger 4 RBI. Seiya, Swanson, PCA, Maya 2 each. Swanson's the interesting one to me because before the game, Craig Counsell was talking to the media, and he mentioned Dansby and how he's batting like 300 this month, and he's been playing much better, really good. I can't remember exactly the words he used to describe it. He might have said great and then backtracked for a second. But he was quick to point out that he believes the leg injury in late April, early May,
Believe so,
derailed him for several months. And that's what led to the really poor first half of the season. He said, but it's a season, and that's why now that he's healthy, you can see the numbers coming back. So are you buying or selling the injury as a reason for the highs and lows of Dansby Swanson this season?
So it was May 10th through 20th. He was on the IL, but
it was prior to that, right?
If I remember correctly, I believe Counsell said that it was like on a slide into second base when the Astros were in town, which that was at the end of April.
Yeah.
And that he just kind of dealt with it for a couple weeks, played through it. Then right there, mid-May was when they made the decision to put him on the IL. If I remember correctly, was the situation with it.
I mean, yeah, I do think the injury had something to do with it. I remember us all sitting here reacting to the fact that he played for 2 weeks on the injury, then they put him on the injury list. So you can argue that for 3 weeks he was hurt. That said, he came back after the IL stint and then really wasn't good until July came around. And that's putting it very loosely. He had a good week that last week before going into the All-Star break. And the only reason I remember that is because I remember when we graded his first half, and I think I gave him an F for the first half of the season. I said, outside of this last week, he's been awful, something along those lines. So definitely been a lot better in the second half of the season, like I said that I felt like he would have. For as much, a lot of fans talk about how much he makes. He makes the most. He's one of the top paid players on the team, right? We've all stated that he cannot be a guy who, you cannot rely on him to be a run producer on a consistent basis. He is a streaky hitter. He is on this team because of defense. All I want for him in 2025 is to be somewhere in the middle of what we've seen this year. He can't be as bad as he was the first 3 months in the year. And if he hits like he has in August and September, great, but I'm not going to bank on it either.
Yeah, he's got to be in the middle somewhere.
He's got to be a league average hitter while also providing the elite defense, because he was signed for defense. He is signed here to be part of what they call run prevention. All the things related to the offense, it's all justified in what we say about how they built the roster, but I can't blame a guy who over the course of his entire career has never really been a run producer on a consistent basis. I can't blame him for not driving in runs on a consistent basis.
Especially if part of the season was on a bum leg. I'm not making excuses for him. This was not a good season for Dansby Swanson. I was frustrated, strangely, with his defense at the very beginning of the season, right?
Which was not
obviously an outlier. He came back, became a great, he was a great shortstop again.
I'm pretty sure I said at the beginning of the season, like when everyone was freaking out about his defense, I'm like, I'm pretty confident we're going to sit here at the end of the year and he's going to be back in the Gold Glove conversation.
It ended up,
that's where we're at.
Ended up being the offense that we're more concerned about. And I'll say it 1,000 times. First of all, we need to stop thinking this is just the world of baseball. Stop thinking of $177 million as an absurd amount of money in Major League Baseball.
In 2024, it's not.
Teams are full of $200 million players. So stop thinking of like, oh, he's the highest paid player in the league. No, he's a higher paid player, but he's an elite defensive shortstop, and he can hit to a level that will give you a nice WAR at the end of the season. You just don't want him to be top 3 in WAR on your team.
Yeah.
And if he is, you want it to be really, really high.
You want it to be because he hit 30 home runs and outdid his.
He hit 632. He hit 212 with a 632 OPS pre All-Star break, post All-Star break, which is obviously now a couple months removed from when he came off the IL. He's hit 284 with a 797 OPS. So, it's still not like elite offense, but good enough that when you're taking into account his Gold Glove caliber defense, like you're looking at a pretty good player for you, a guy you really want to have on your team.
If Dansby Swanson hits 284 and has a 797 OPS for the Cubs in 2025, depending on whatever they do with the offense to improve it this offseason, you take that and run with it.
Mm-hmm.
He would be a 5-WAR player next season if he hits that with
beyond that
to go with his probably, because in 2023 he finished with like a 730 OPS and hit like 240. All right, so if he hit 284 for an entire 162 game or 150 game sample size with nearly an 800 OPS, that will be like one of his best seasons.
When we make our list of the 10 things you blame for a team that missed the playoffs again, Dansby's early 3 months at the plate will certainly be in everybody's top 10.
Yeah.
So I don't want to sugarcoat it. I agree with you. The defense was good. There can be things you could say there's been no pressure, so it's easy to hit now at the end of the season. I also don't want to go into next season saying, if Dansby does this, if Seiya does this, if Bellinger does this, if he's back. Like, that was the problem with this year. And for the most part, all of the answers were didn't happen, didn't quite happen. So That's the danger of that. Do I think he's more likely than some guys to go back to what would be considered a good season by most reasonable people? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dansby, after today, 2 for 6, 2 doubles, run RBI, up to a 98 WRC plus, which is still below league average, right? But like to come from where because the numbers were bad earlier this year. Like there's no, like you said, no sugarcoating it. He was bad offensively for a good portion of this year. He's gotten it closer to now league average. I mean, even last year, he's nearly a 5-WAR player, had a 105 WRC plus because his defense is so good. Like, would you like that to be like 110 or higher? Absolutely. I'm not even saying he had a good offensive season. It's just that if he can have a better offensive season, which I think he can, I think we all agree that like the 117 WRC plus he had in 2022, that's the highest of his career. Probably doesn't reach that. But if he can get in between that and his first year in Chicago, which is 105, so like somewhere in that 110, 111 range with the defense that he provides, you're looking at a really good player. A really good player. And, I mean, James Colstock said Dansby's a bum. I don't agree with that. I disagree with that. I think he's a really good player that
he's had more value than any of the other guys.
I think he's a good player that had a long stretch of being bad offensively.
And
that's real and happened this year.
He says our double play combo is pathetic power-wise. I don't totally disagree with that. I would just say if that's going to be your double play combo, then you have to have massive power at other positions. And they don't have massive power at other positions. It's about construction. Yes. If that's going to be, if you're going to say this is our core up the middle and you're going to get 5 home runs from Nico and you're going to get 20 or whatever from Dansby, then you better have a couple 30 home run hitters on your team to go with it.
Again, it's not Dansby Swanson's fault that he is the second highest WAR player on the team. That's not his fault.
No, it's
like
it's everyone around him. But
right.
But he's had flaws. Like he could he have been better than he was this season? Yes. Could injuries have impacted some of that?
Sure.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Yes, potentially. But I'm not going to put all my faith in that either.
Yeah. I think all these things are true. It's been a disappointing year because he just wasn't, the consistency wasn't there like it was in 2023. But at the same time, when I'm always going to look back at how the team was constructed. And if you go look at his baseball reference, it's the same year in and year out. The advanced numbers, the regular numbers. There's a few years in there, like before hitting free agency, I think that was his highest home run total. Whatever, that's home runs, all right? But he has been, the last 2 years, outside of that 3-month stretch, and this year, in April to June this year, he has been as advertised as what he was with Atlanta, largely. So I don't know, like that to me. Again, you have to look at roster construction before him.
And Rick Kane right here. Before I guess we're going to another break here in a sec, but like he makes a good point. Like Dansby's going to be another year older next year. He's already over. He's 30, right? He turned 30 in.
That's why you can't just say if.
Yeah, and you can't just like guarantee that he's going to have a bounce back year. He's going to be more like himself offensively. He's going to whatever, right? Like he's going to maintain this level of defense. Like you don't necessarily know that. So that's why when we talk about it, like you want to have, you got to plug in a lot of holes on your team to make sure that a guy having a little bit of a drop after he turns 30 doesn't like tank your team, right?
Yeah,
like that's how you have to build the roster where you can, if he does have a little bit of more of a drop next year, that doesn't just completely tank your team or what you're trying to do.
Chef Kevin says they don't have that big power at any position. I agree with that. What do they need in the offseason? They need a bone-in ribeye at one of those positions, somebody that can hit 30 to 40 bombs. All right, time to talk about our great partners again. You can't have a great bone-in ribeye without a nice cold Blue Moon. Some beers can say they're brewed for baseball, but only Blue Moon is brewed by baseball. Beer and baseball just go together, and no beer goes better than the one that was literally born in a ballpark. Blue Moon was created at Coors Field in Denver. It's the natural choice all season long. Summertime shy still going on. The trees are turning. Pretty soon you're going to have autumn shy, and it's still good because you get that orange slice with the Blue Moon. Nothing beats watching baseball or football like doing it with an ice cold Blue Moon. Brewed Buy baseball to give you a dose of nostalgia and get you excited for the season. A beer this good only comes around once in a blue moon, but you can enjoy it all year. Bring the ballpark to you with Blue Moon Belgian-style wheat ale. One of a kind every time. Get Blue Moon delivered by visiting get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO to see your delivery options. That's get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO. Blue Moon, made brighter. Celebrate responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
I have to tell you about this game-changing product, Luke. I use it before a night out with drinks. It's called pre-alcohol. Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I don't bounce back the next day like I used to. I have to make a choice. I can either have a great night or a great next day. Mm-hmm. That is until I found pre-alcohol. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works, Luke. When you drink, and Ryan, I guess, when you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration. That's to blame for your rough next morning. The pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. So just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Every time I have pre-alcohol before drinks, I notice a difference the next day. Kept hearing about pre-alcohol and wondered what it was actually like. Now that I've tried it, I believe the hype. And with their GMO technology, they will release different products that help address toxic byproducts of modern living in the gut. Go to zbiotics.com/CHGO Cubs to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use code CHGO Cubs at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. So give it a try.
Wonderful.
Sounds good. Is it just our chat, or is it just when you talk to other Cubs fans? Like today, I get it. Like the Cubs won, but we're talking about another disappointing season. They're going to be 500 or slightly better, but not make the playoffs. They're not even close. The I don't like Boog talk comes back. Is that a popular theme? I know people love Len Casper, but are people is that because he's been doing losing baseball, or do people not like his? What don't people like about Boog when you hear that from a fan?
I think
it's been three seasons of basically what I'll call losing baseball. They might be 500. It's losing baseball.
It's been basically losing baseball since Marquee launched, right? I mean, I guess 2020, but
I think
we launched for sure.
I think he just has that like national voice. I think that's why a lot of people who don't like him say that. And also, and we've said this before, there aren't a lot of games that we look back on that he has called that we remember. You know, like
that's part of it.
Like maybe that Morel walk-off against the White Sox last year.
Talkman's catch in St. Louis.
Talkman's catch, like
pretty sure he had a good call at that one.
Yeah, like, and he's had some good calls this year. I think this year you felt like he was more of you felt like it was coming from a Cubs fan more than a national guy this year than it had the last 2 years, in my opinion. And I like the guy. He's fine. He's not at a Len Casper level for me, but I also grew up listening to Len, so it's like different. I've been trying to give him an a chance, you know, and I think so many people were so accustomed to Len, and then you have a Hall of Famer Pat Hughes on the radio. It's hard to live up to like those expectations, and that's not to say that he's not good. It's just like he hasn't called a lot of winning baseball for the Cubs, and he's just different from the guys I just mentioned.
Right. Okay. I was just curious because it seems like once a week, it seems like in our chat, it starts to filter through, and
Well, another thing that whenever when basically the season is over and like Cubs fans are just tuned out on the team, a lot of people like to complain about what Wrigley Field looks like now compared to like when it did 10 years ago. And that also makes me just roll my eyes to like a new level, because it's like
it looks a lot nicer.
It looks a lot nicer than it did 10 years ago.
Even an old guy like me, I don't understand the people that don't like. I think Danny Rockett's someone that's not super fond of the way Wrigleyville has changed. I don't want to put words in Danny's mouth, but I think that's true. And I know there are fans that feel that way. I don't understand it. It's way nicer than it was.
Oh, yeah. The whole neighborhood.
It's cleaner. It's nicer. It still looks like Wrigley Field on the inside. There's just a couple of more video boards.
And all of the things around it are like Chicago-owned like places, right? It's not
it's
outside of like the McDonald's and the Taco Bell and the Culver's, right? Like, I don't know. Like, it would be different if they were all a bunch of franchise places, but it's like all Chicago local places.
I think people are estimating how nice the donut shop was. It was not as nice as the Do-Right that's out there now, let me tell you.
Yeah. Also, hey, Stan the man, works one of the elevators to go up to the suites.
Oh,
over at Wrigley
nice.
Field. Saw him a few times this week. What's up, Stan? Thanks for hopping. He comes in every once in a while. He's in the chat.
Stan knows the ballpark's nicer.
Oh, yeah.
It still has a totally different vibe than any other ballpark in Major League Baseball. Some of the stuff's new. That's good. The concourse is better on the lower level. It's bigger. Yada, yada, yada. All right. So we had Craig Counsell make these comments, right? Saying there's a big gap between us and the Brewers. This was after the Brewers had clinched. Big gap. We got to close that gap. No question about it. Then we had other players like Tyone say, yeah, I remember what it used to be like to come in here and play at Wrigley Field. That's what it needs to be. Yeah. But you have to be winning to do that. Now Jed Hoyer comments, and he said, this is the only – I'm going to pull just one quote because most of them I had no issue. I don't know that Jed ever says anything that really kind of shocks me or is going to go super viral because most of the stuff's pretty vanilla, which that's just the path he takes. Fine, I don't care.
He never reveals anything.
He doesn't reveal anything. He holds his cards close, all that stuff. This quote I don't agree with, and maybe it was just him trying to pat himself on the back or not make it all sound too bad because, guy could get fired over some stuff. Mm-hmm. His comment was, quote, when we talk about the gap, we've come a long way, and I feel really good about the position we're in. But there's still a gap. That last stretch, that's what we have to make up. I disagree. I don't know what he's talking about when he says, we've come a long way, and I feel good about the position we're in. He can't be talking about just, like, success on the field. Yeah. Now, he could be talking about roster development and organizational player-wise, all those different things. But it hasn't really led to more wins, as I've said many times. 22, 23, 24 all seem like the same stretch. And the gap he's talking about was sort of self-created.
Yeah, well, and I think, to be fair to what Jed was saying, like the rest of that quote, he did say, like, I feel like we've come a long way, but we have a lot of room to get to those 90-win teams. This is from The Athletic. Mm-hmm. To get those 90-win teams that we need to have. Last year, the wild card was fairly low in terms of, like, record-wise. This year, it looks like it's going to be in the 90s. The goal has to be how do we get in that range. So, to be fair, he is saying, like, we still have a lot of room to go to get to that 90-win team. I think reading the quote, kind of just sitting on it for a while, I think what he means is that they have, come a long way from tearing everything down in 21, trading all the guys. Like, obviously, we've talked about the Kyle Schwarber thing. That was part of it. Trading Yu Darvish was part of it. And then you have the trade deadline in 21. You have not re-signing Wilson, actually trying to trade him in 22. Like, all that, tearing things down, like, giving up a lot of major league talent and trying to get back to that level that they were at previously. I think that's what he means when he says we've come a long way in that they have improved, obviously, even just record-wise from where they were in 2021. Now, does that matter? Not necessarily, because they could, by as soon as tomorrow, clinch a winning record for the second year in a row and not have made the playoffs either of those years. So I think, again, like to be fair, is like they have made progress from 3 years ago, but if you're looking at it in terms of from last year, no, they haven't made any progress. They haven't made the playoffs. They are still a pretty sizable gap behind where the Brewers are at and other, like even wild card teams around the National League. They are behind a lot of these teams, and they have a big gap to make up. So I think in a way, it's like both can kind of be true because they have made progress in the last 3 years, especially when you look at the organization, like farm system wise. But it ultimately comes down to what is your record, and the record could end up being worse than it was last year when they still didn't make the playoffs.
I don't want to nitpick at something somebody said when he probably talked for 45 minutes without a teleprompter, right? Like, I get that. But if you're 9.5 games behind the Brewers again and weren't in this division race for months, how much of a gap could you have really closed? You're 7 out from the third wild card spot. Like, they're basically telling teams, all you have to do is be somewhat good, and you're going to make the postseason. 6 teams make it in the National League. They're not really sniffing it. Yeah. So I think the gap is, he may feel good about it. I don't feel great about closing the gap that much. Has it closed from, the Esteban Quiros days? Sure. Has it closed from last year? I feel like it hasn't closed at all.
No. Well, and that's what I'm trying to say is like when the end of that 21 season, they were 24 games back. Like they have improved record-wise. They have improved farm system-wise. The organization may be a little healthier in a spot than it was 3 years ago. But I agree with you in that I think it's the opposite of I think it's the looking at it as, have they improved? Yes. Is there still a long way to go to catch the Brewers or any of these other wild card teams?
Right.
Absolutely.
But Cody, I'm happy about the place we're in. And it's like Chef Kevin is saying, they're not in the top 40% of teams. They're in the bottom 60%.
Yeah, I mean,
no, that's a problem.
That's fair to say we're happy with where we're at. It's you shouldn't be happy in the fact that you're not making the
I wouldn't
playoffs.
be satisfied at all about anything that happened this year.
Yeah, you shouldn't be happy that you didn't make the playoffs again when that's your goal.
Just reading that particular comment, I'm with Luke on that. And I'm sure we'll get more from the season-ending presser conference at the end of the season, but they know that this season's been very disappointing, and Craig Counsell's comments over the weekend only pushes down on that even more. You know what I mean? So, I will agree with Ryan in some. I'm
not even against what Luke's saying. I agree with him there. I'm just I think there's a little bit more of what Jed is saying takes into account where they were 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
It's fair to point out that they have made progress in that sense. But in the last year, have they? No, not really.
Internally, they have made progress, but it's just not fast enough. It's not enough.
No,
and it's unacceptable. Honestly, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
But I'd rather be where we're at now than where we were 2.5 years ago. That's not to spin it. I'm just saying,
But I'd rather be where the Phillies are, the Brewers
absolutely.
are.
Yes. Yeah, and that's where I'm absolutely agreeing in the fact that this is not acceptable. They should be high 80s, 90. They need to get there because that's where the best teams in this league are at, and they aren't there.
Yeah, and he talked about, you got to be there. He doesn't want to just get there for a year and then fall back. He wants to be a stretch, which, I guess means not trading some depth in your organization if that's the reasoning he's going with. But I also want to get there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's been long enough. You need to get back there because I know you tore it down, but it was never supposed to be a quote unquote rebuild.
Yeah, I know.
It shouldn't take this long to be in good position.
Yeah, no, not getting closer this year and even making the playoffs is definitely a disappointment. Absolutely. Next year, they pretty much by next year, Jed needs to have closed that gap. This team needs to have closed that gap. As you kind of said, I don't think Jed's going anywhere this offseason. Next year might be a different story if they're still out of the playoffs.
They still could finish third. The Cardinals still could pass them in the division.
Yeah.
Third place in this division would be embarrassing.
Yeah.
Embarrassing. It's the Brewers trying, the Cubs trying, and pretty much everybody else is well, if we have a great breakout season from everybody on the team, and maybe the Cubs fall into that.
The Cardinals tried this year.
They tried, but they also went from last in the division to potentially third or second, right?
I would argue that the Cardinals season has been significantly more disappointing than the Cubs, just based off the age of the stars that they have and all of the money they invested in their starting rotation. And
you don't like St. Louis.
That and the way they've managed Jordan Walker is an absolute joke. Yeah. If there is any about this season, the Cubs are in a way better spot than the Cardinals. That's not me trolling. That's this is factual to me.
I used to think that too. More from our great sponsors though, because where can you find good flooring? That's a big question for us.
Yeah, Luke, I got to tell you about our friends over at Empire Today. With Empire Today, you get shop-at-home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats, but Empire can't be beaten on quality, service, speed, so competitors advertise low-quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Empire won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does that is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in theirs. They keep shopping for Floor Simple with a curated product selection, Empire's philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is as important as what they put into it. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. Empire's virtual floor designer is a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy, just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. Shopping for floors at a big box store can be frustrating. You might talk to someone today who was working in plumbing yesterday. Flooring is all Empire today does. They live and breathe flooring, so you can be confident you're getting honest, upfront advice. Empire prides themselves on their convenient shop-at-home service. They help customers shop for floors where they use their floors so they can see exactly what their new floors will look like in their home's lighting and decor so they can make an informed decision. Empire services its own warranties. If an issue does arise, just call Empire. They service all warranties themselves. They won't have to track down a manufacturer's phone number. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/CHGO for details.
Don't forget, we got to tell you about a couple of our local events coming up here at CHGO. We've, of course, got the final Friday 120 Club of the season coming up. Cubs versus Reds. Get your bleacher ticket, then meet Cody at Murphy's and head on over with the gang. It's been a big success. What is it, 14 Friday 120s?
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun this year despite the on-field product, but it's always cool to hang out with people who support the show and stuff like that. Like it really does mean a lot. Like I look forward to next year.
Sarah is getting ready for a trip to London with the CHGO Bears team.
Yeah.
Huh?
This is correct.
Wow.
Yeah, very exciting. You guys can still get tickets. There are no tickets available for like flying to London and doing the hotel and
Through us, at
transportation.
least.
Yeah, through us. But you guys can still go to truefantravel.com and you can still buy tickets to our tailgates. And we have a boat cruise and we have a couple different events at different pubs, and those are all still available. So you guys, very much, if anyone lives in London or wants to do their own trip to London and wants to meet the Bears guys, you are more than welcome to.
Heck yeah.
Sounds good. And then we
Sounds
got
awesome.
we have the second tailgate of the season is this Sunday. Right? Our Bears tailgate.
Yeah.
The first one was great. The Sweetwater barbecue was a big hit.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Can't wait.
Braggs will be there hopping around on one leg.
Mm-hmm. And
Till he owns the Brewers. That's what he does. He does tailgates and podcasts.
The content from when he finally owns the Brewers will just be chef's kiss.
Yeah.
It will be.
where is it at? Tell people that don't know. Where is it at?
The tailgate.
Cermak and
Cermak and what is the
Wabash?
cross Wabash? I
Wabash,
believe
right?
that is
Wabash
right.
and Cermak.
right off the green line.
Yeah, it's right underneath the train.
Or
It's
you
right
can get-
across from a White Castle.
Yes. Or you could,
Yeah.
or if you
Wabash and
take
Cermak. There
if
you
you
go.
take the
Wabash and
red
Cermak.
line, ride it all the way to Chinatown, and then walk straight east, and you'll find us.
It's a good spot. It's a massive parking lot. There are some other tailgates
Oh, yeah.
going on there as well, but you just stop at ours, you get the wristband, and it's
A lot of
it's a
fun.
good time. Good time. Hey, Saya and Bush both left this game, but we don't think either series. Bush got hit in the ribs with like 91 miles an hour.
And I believe it was triceps.
Triceps?
Triceps was what was tweeted out.
I don't know if I need to see him play again this year.
Let me take a look.
Oh, you know they'll be in the lineup tomorrow, Luke. Come on.
Yes,
now.
I know. I'm just
So here's the update. Michael Bush departed with a right triceps contusion.
okay.
Seiya Suzuki sprained his right ankle while running the bases in the 6th inning, which is why he came out. Or why he was being pinch hit for in the 8th.
Mm-hmm.
So those are injuries right here at the end of the season. Guess we'll see what they do with those. I don't know exactly how big, or I'm trying to think of the right word. Like how bad are these injuries?
Right.
I don't know.
Okay.
But it's obviously not a point where you push something. So
Right.
I guess we see
For this,
what they do.
just for the sake of it, like, because Say is an outfielder, like,
Owen
whatever
Casey.
it is, like Owen Casey,
go.
dude. Like, I don't care that it's.
I just
5
don't think
games
it's
away.
happening at this
I-
point.
I
What do you
mean,
mean,
I
you're gonna
don't
call it up
either.
for last homestand?
I mean,
I guess it could, but
I read
With
it in
an
the
injury, it
Athletic.
could.
if
and I'm
Saya's
not
hurt,
going
it
to.
could.
I read in the
He's really-
Athletic they're not going to do it, but it's
I will
just
say
like-
that Craig Counsell was asked that on Sunday, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think his response was like, there are no plans for that right now.
Yeah.
So obviously, maybe a Seiya injury changes that. I don't know.
I know that the if it happens, he gets maybe 10 at bats. Like, you got to put him on the 40-man this offseason anyway.
I know. Well, it was one of the things I wanted to see. We did our top 10 things you want to see in the last 10 games. One was stay away from injuries. So far, that hasn't totally happened.
Fast games didn't happen tonight.
Fast games hasn't happened for me.
And Ryan didn't sing the stretch.
Ryan hasn't been able to sing the stretch.
Yeah.
And
Still haven't got Luke in the Cubs Hall of Fame.
no Owen Casey. So, like, half of mine aren't coming true.
Yeah.
not
I haven't
very
checked,
fun.
I haven't checked PCA's OPS. But
Sprained ankle. Yeah, I don't know. Seiya's in the mix with Dansby for me this season. There have been some bright spots.
Well, I'll say this. The offense
He's been in a higher point than Dansby. Okay.
The offense for Seiya has been honestly and I've said this before, I think we put too high of expectations for Seiya, but also the front office did as well based off how they acted this offseason. But he's been everything that you could have asked for based off how much he gets paid and
offensively.
What we saw last year. You can argue he's been better than last year.
I think offensively he has been.
And that's what I mean, offensively. I know the defense took a massive step back this year, and it makes you wonder can he only DH? Like, I feel like if you have to, you can put him in right field, but he obviously, this year at least, you couldn't put him in right field on a daily basis.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, to the point where, obviously, Pete Crow-Armstrong emerging and just coming up and just being the gold glove caliber center fielder from day one, that allowed them to push Cody Bellinger over to right field to let Seiya Suzuki just strictly DH. That's helpful, but I think that is one of those disappointing. As good as Seiya Suzuki's season was, he had a 72 WRC plus in May, didn't have lower than a 134 any other month of the season. He was a pretty consistently good season offensively overall, but the fact that the other half of the game for him, the fact that they felt and again, PCA aided in them not needing Seiya Suzuki to play right field every day. But you go into next year, Cody Bellinger leaves, right? Depending on what moves are made, I don't know if you go into next year comfortable if Seiya Suzuki's back playing right field every day defensively. And I think that's one of the disappointing parts of the season, in that it seems like his best, maybe being a DH really allows that offense to come through. I don't know.
If Juan Soto's your DH, I'm just fine with Seiya playing right field.
Sure.
Then I'm okay with it.
Sure.
Otherwise, I don't want him playing
As we
right
said,
field.
no player on the
defensively, I don't want to see him playing right field.
As we said, no player on the roster blocks Juan Soto. And a lot of guys can say that.
That's true.
A lot of teams can say that. Juan Soto, you figure it out. You make the signing and then you figure it out. Whatever. I don't know. And some in the chat, I think people are mad that we're not criticizing Seiya more. I don't know.
I just said I thought it was a disappointing season. I know you guys are much higher on the offense, and I'm not saying the offense wasn't there, but there were stretches that were hard to watch, and the defense just made it very hard to watch.
I think,
and we keep saying he could be. Beginning of the season, things were starting well, and we're like, wait, see what a difference MVP worthy Seiya makes. If he's this kind of bad, if he turns into whoever, an all-star outfielder, a legit all-star bat, that's different.
Well, yeah,
that's different. But
and then what happens?
He's not Santander.
Then what happens?
He's no superstar bat. Absolutely not. He's
a
really
bat.
good bat.
Yeah.
He's a really good bat. 136 WRC plus right now in the year. Obviously would be his best of his career. He may end up with a higher F4 than he did last year when he was actually playing in the field every day. So that's a sign that the offense was really, really good this year. I think he's a really good bat. Obviously the defensive question marks are still there 3 years in. I agree with you. And the defensive side is, you're pretty disappointed that he's no longer playing in the field, because I think coming in, there was oh, this guy's supposed to be a really good defender. and it hasn't really played out that way.
Right.
I think that's where you're talking about, like, disappointing for me, at least, is that the defense hasn't been very good, like, overall.
You want me to say something
And
disappointing?
a few too many drops that you don't want to see, obviously.
The only thing I could say that I'm disappointed, I guess, about Seiya Suzuki from an offensive standpoint is that there haven't been more home runs. He hasn't had a 30 home run season at the major league level after hitting 30+ in Japan. That's all I got for you. But when you look at how much he's getting, and then look at the value he's giving you offensively, it's like he's giving you what you're paying to be.
He's better than Benintendi.
It always goes back to roster construction with this team. We've said it way too many times. Like, there are a lot of really good players, but they don't have a star. They don't have a superstar. And whenever you just have a lot of really good players, you're going to be a 500 team, which they're at worst going to be this year. So I'm not going to shit on a guy too much because he didn't outperform a projection.
Does the 500 thing mean anything to you, though? If they finish with one more win than they did last year, will you feel like that was a step forward?
No,
I don't.
No,
whether they're a game below 500 or 3 games over 500.
No, it's like I said, like the fact that maybe you finish with 84, 85 wins. You didn't make the playoffs. That feels like just a major consolation prize that no one wants.
And I also feel like if they get to 84, whatever it might be, I feel like it was sort of padded at the end because they were out of it for so long. Like there was a stretch of probably 15 wins that you knew that wasn't going anywhere anyways. You know what I'm saying? It's not like the games don't count, but you were out of it already. So I don't even care if they had another 10 wins.
We just look at this team, and the difference to me is that, compared to last year, is that the collapse happened in May and June, and all of the good happened after it, but you dug too far of a hole.
Ran out of gas.
Yeah. And then in September, I think they might.
And even in September, they haven't even played that great.
Right,
I mean, you lost a series of Rockies, you lost a series of the A's.
To the Pirates at home.
Yeah.
After sweeping them on the road.
Right.
Just the road trip prior to that.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's when your goal is to make the postseason. When you're coming off a season when you are 1 game away from the playoffs, you felt like you took a big step, and then you go into the next season, your goal is to make the playoffs. Not making the playoffs is a disappointing season. That's all there is to it. Whether they finish with another win or 2 more, like, you're not happy with the season because you didn't complete the goal that you set out.
Dino says, how have the Astros been able to keep their competitive window open for 10 years and the Cubs couldn't come close to doing that? That is a whole podcast. But it starts with developing your own players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Altuve, Bregman, but also like getting Yordan Alvarez for Josh Fields. You know, the Dodgers, as good as they are, they definitely regret that move. You know what I mean?
You think so?
Yeah.
I do too.
They would love to have Yordan Alvarez with Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman in their lineup, I'm sure, with Max Muncy. Somehow, some way, they would have made it happen, you know?
They've even made bad signings, like Abreu. But those bad signings don't handcuff them into 4 years of...
Well, yeah, they cut ties. They said, we'll pay you to go away because they know they're in their winning window.
That is a difference. All right, so tomorrow, Javier Assad goes for the final time this season. We will be here for a full hour after the game again tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the off-day pod on Thursday, Friday 120 Club on Friday, Corey and Brendan on Sunday. Monday, we recap the whole season. And then we start the grades.
Big countdown.
And we start the
grades.
grades.
Are coming.
Mm-hmm.
Godfather thinks that we're going to be super easy.
A's and B's, apparently.
I'm telling you, man.
That's what he thinks.
He'll be here either way. But, like, I'm just saying, like, I've been thinking about off-season grades for a month and a half. Can't wait.
All right. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. Back again tomorrow night. Until then, thanks for watching. Thanks to everybody in the live YouTube chat. And don't forget, fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.